Good day, class. Let's now discuss another lesson for this unit, the major literary genres. This time, let's talk about lesson 3, creative nonfiction. For this lesson, let's try to see what is creative nonfiction, what are its key elements, and how do we distinguish creative nonfiction from fiction and other major literary genres. So make sure that you have your notebooks with you to jot down important key discussions, significant lessons that you are going to pick up along this discussion, and most of all, questions that may arise so that when we have our online classes, we can cater to them and we can expound those ideas in order for us to understand the lesson better. All right, let's begin with our discussion. For this lesson, we need to target the following objectives. First, we need to define creative nonfiction and distinguish it from other major literary genres. We also need to identify the elements of creative nonfiction and analyze reading selections according to their elements. Let's begin. Here's a very important and essential question for all of us. Why do we have to share our knowledge and experiences with others in writing? Nowadays, with the usage of social media and with the advent of technology, we are able to quote-unquote preserve our truth in a lot of mediums, be it writing, be it video vlogging, or be it camcording. There are a lot of ways in order for us to share our knowledge and experiences and preserve it. Before, it was used through writing. A lot of people were fond of writing different excerpts, different articles, and different literary pieces in order for them to share their knowledge and most of all to share their life experiences in order for people to learn their truth and preserve these truth. Now, in deepening this understanding class, I want you to take down these vocabulary words that we are going to encounter as we go along our discussion. First, informal essay. This is a noun which means a short composition that is more casual in tone and covers the writer's personal feelings about the topic. Example, some very long posts on social media may actually be considered informal essays. Second, formal essay. This is a noun which means a short composition written for scholarly purposes and provides factual information backed by evidence. Example, for the Student Council election campaign, we candidates were assigned to write a formal essay on our platforms and advocacies. Third, informative nonfiction. This is a noun which means texts that provide factual information. Example, unlike many of my classmates, I enjoy reading informative nonfiction such as encyclopedias. Fourth, literary nonfiction. This is a noun which means text written like fiction, but the people, places, and events involved remain factual. Example, Joe M. will submit an entry to literary nonfiction category of the Palanca Awards. And lastly, autobiography. This is a noun which means the story of a person's life told by the same person. Example, Maya Angelou's series of autobiographies have achieved critical acclaim. So take note of these vocabulary words because we will be encountering them and using them as we go along with our discussion in order for us to understand best our lesson. Now, let us now try to discuss the very important details or key points in our lesson. First, let's talk about nonfiction. Contrary to fiction, where characters, setting, plot, or theme is the product of the imagination of the author, nonfiction deals with real people, places, and events. Take note of the keyword real, meaning to say it is happening, tinuod ng mga tao, lugar, o mga panghitabo. Another, Informative nonfiction, on the other hand, are texts that provide factual information. Examples of informative nonfiction are science and history books, encyclopedias, dictionaries, and periodicals. Now let's talk about literary nonfiction. Literary nonfiction is written like fiction, but the places, the people, events that are involved remain factual, meaning these are based from facts, actualities that have happened, that are existing. Examples of nonfiction narratives are autobiographies, biographies, and personal essays. Now let us discuss these three examples of nonfiction narratives that we have cited. First is autobiography. Autobiography is the story of a person's life told by the same person. Let's put it into context. The story of Sir Darren's life told by Sir Darren, or narrated by Sir Darren, or written in a book by Sir Darren. That is the whole concept of an autobiography. You are telling your story and you are informing, preserving the truth. Usually, autobiography is written in the first person point of view and covers a long period of the author's life. There are shorter types which are journals, diaries, and memoirs. Meaning to say, autobiography is preserving the truth about the author, about the subject, that is coming from an authentic or factual point of view or factual side of the author. Second, biography. Biography is the story of a person's life told by another person. Now let's put it into context. This is the story of the life of President Duterte told by Sir Darren. So that is the context of biography. There is a subject, however, the story of the subject is being discussed or being written by another different person. Let's deepen this context. Both autobiographies and biographies share similar elements to that of fiction, such as character, setting, and plot. However, remember that the key words that we need to remember is that in literary nonfiction, these events, these characters, the setting, and the plot happened in real time. Nahitabo gid siya, not stemming from the imagination of the author. Last, essay. Essay is a piece of writing that centers on one topic or subject matter. The purpose may be to inform, to describe, to entertain, or persuade the readers. Take note, class, that the purpose of the essay may not be solely to inform, to describe, to entertain, or to persuade, but could also be mixed according or depending on the subject matter at hand. So your essay may be to inform and to describe and to persuade. So pwede na ang tulo ka elements or purpose sa essay. Take note also that essays can be informal or personal or formal. When we are talking about an informal or personal essay, this is relating to you. This is relating to how you write the essay. Free writing style of essay. However, when we are going to talk about the formal essay, this means that we are going to subscribe to a particular notion, to a particular procedure, a system, or a format on how we are going to write our essay comprehensively. Now this time, let us read an excerpt from The Life on the Mississippi by Mark Twain. In this, we are going to talk about the literary nonfiction entitled Two Ways of Seeing a River. In this particular example, we are going to understand how the author is presenting the subject matter in a nonfiction perspective, but still adhering to the literary aspect of the genre. Two Ways of Seeing a River is an excerpt from Mark Twain's autobiographical piece, Life on the Mississippi. Here, he tells of an insight he gained from learning about the Mississippi River on the steamboat he was journeying in. Class, again, take note that this particular excerpt from Life on the Mississippi is about Mark Twain, the author. This is an autobiographical piece. Now, let me read to you two ways of seeing a river. Now, when I had mastered the language of this water and had come to know every trifling feature that bordered the great river as familiarly as I knew the letters of the alphabet, I had made a valuable acquisition. But I had lost something too. I had lost something which could never be restored to me while I lived. All the grace, the beauty, the poetry had gone out of the majestic river. I still keep in mind a certain wonderful sunset which I witnessed when steamboating was new to me. A broad expanse of the river was turned to blood. In the middle distance, the red hue brightened into gold, through which a solitary log came floating, black and conspicuous. In one place alone, slanting mark lay sparkling upon the water. In another, the surface was broken by boiling, tumbling rings that were as many tinted as an opal. Where the ruddy flush was faintest was a smooth spot that was covered with graceful circles and radiating lines ever so delicately traced the shore on our one place by a log. The shore on our left was densely wooded, and the somber shadow that fell from this forest was broken in one place by a log. Ruffled trail that shone like silver, and high above the forest wall, a clean-stemmed dead tree waved a single leafy bough that glowed like a flame in the unobstructed splendor that was flowing from the sun. There were graceful curves, reflected image, woody heights, soft distances, and over the whole scene, far and near, the dissolving lights drifted steadily, enriching it every passing moment with new marvels of coloring. I stood like one bewitched. I drank in it. In a speechless rapture, the world was new to me, and I had never seen anything like this at home. But as I have said, a day came when I began to cease from noting the glories and the charms which the moon and the sun and the twilight wrought upon the river's face. Another day came when I ceased altogether to note them. Then, if that sunset scene had been repeated, I should have looked upon it without rapture, and should have commented upon it inwardly in this fashion. This sun means that we are going to have wind tomorrow. That floating log means that the river is rising. Small thanks to it. That slanting mark on the water refers to a bluff reef which is going to kill somebody's steamboat one of these nights if it keeps on stretching out like that. Those tumbling boils show a dissolving bar and a changing channel there. The lines and circles in the slick water over yonder are a warning that that troublesome place is shoaling up dangerously. That silver streak in the shadow of the forest is the break from a new snag, and he has located himself in very best place he could have found to fish or steamboats. That tall, dead tree with a single living branch is not going to last long. And then how is a body ever going to get through this blind place at night without the friendly old landmark? No, the romance and the beauty were all gone from the river. All the value, any feature of it, had for me now was the amount of usefulness it could furnish toward compassing the safe piloting of a steamboat. Since those days, I have pitied doctors from my heart. What does the lovely flush in a beauty's cheek mean to a doctor but break that ripples above some deadly disease? Are not all her visible charms sewn thick with what are to him the new signs and symbols of hidden decay? Does he ever see her beauty at all? Or doesn't he simply view her professionally and comment upon her unwholesome condition all to himself? And doesn't he sometimes wonder whether he has gained most or lost most by learning his trade? So that was the excerpt, from the autobiographical piece of Mark Twain. Now here are some guide questions in order for us to understand better that very, very interesting piece of his autobiography. Question number 1. What is the tone of the autobiographical account? What are the feelings that it evokes? For you, what do you think is the tone? What do you think is the feeling from that autobiography? What seems to be the writer's purpose in sharing this personal insight? And what does it have in common with fictional prose, such as with an essay? Because if you can see the elements of that excerpt, it was talking about no clear character, no clear plot. However, the setting is very concrete, but then again, it was not relatable to us what you can expect, no? But that was only an excerpt from an experience of Mark Twain. It could be that he was trying to integrate, or it was used as a metaphor to describe and share his experience, key experience, while he was still learning a trade on being a poet, being a literature artist, or being a literature author, right? What is the theme or message of the account? And how do you relate to the selection? How are we able to ponder these selections and try to relate ourselves into it for it to become more comprehensive? These are very, very useful guide questions in order for us to understand best what the author or what Mark Twain meant with his autobiography. So this is telling us his life experiences, his ideas and feelings about a particular experience that had significant impact into his life. Now, after learning about that example, I want you to analyze another excerpt from Mark Twain, Taming the Bicycle. If earlier he was talking to us about how to see a river in two ways or two sides, this time he is talking about taming the bicycle, which is also another interesting excerpt from his autobiography. I want you to analyze this particular excerpt and I want you to answer these short response questions. Afterwards, we are going to integrate our discussion about literary or creative nonfiction with this question. How can learning about others' biographies, autobiographies, or essays help you express your own anecdotal experiences, learnings, insights, or opinions? Remember, class, that being able to communicate well and express your ideas comprehensively does not happen in a snap of a finger or overnight. It needs to be processed, it needs to be practiced, and most of all, we need to learn from our strengths and weaknesses, where we are strong and where we need to improve. Therefore, reading biographies, autobiographies, or essays will help us understand how to present our ideas in the most comprehensive way that is still part of our context with our personal touch. So this is a very, very interesting lesson because we are helping one another present ideas and express our ideas comprehensively. Alright? If there are questions in this lesson, make sure to jot it down in your notebooks and don't forget to raise them during online classes so that we can cater to them and give our explanations and expound these ideas. Thank you, God bless, and keep safe.